Hello, good evening. This is Bill Chan again from the Five Elements. We'll continue our talk on sugar kills, series 2 today. And today we're going to focus on why sugar is so dangerous for your health. And I wanted to share some slides with you. We noticed that the average baby today, comparing to 1990, average American boys gain about 20 to 23 grams, and for girls about 25 grams in the last 16 years. This is a study of babies, comparing babies that was born in 1990 versus 2016. So in this 16-year span, our babies gotten fatter. Now, one of the key reasons why babies getting fatter these days is because mothers during pregnancy, they're overweight. They're consuming a lot of processed food, a lot of sugars, salt, and oil, and also a lot of animal products. And therefore, when mothers are overweight during pregnancy, they pass genes down to 3 generations, not just 1 generation. It affects mothers, affects their children, and their children affects their children again. So it's very scary. It's 3 generations. Now, why is that? We are experiencing a huge epidemic of childhood obesity because overweight babies turn out to be overweight kids. And for the past 3 decades, childhood obesity in America has tripled. It's becoming a huge epidemic. And this is a major problem. So nearly 1/3 of all children, 1 out of 3, are overweight or obese. This is even a higher ratio with African and Hispanic populations. This problem is even more expanded. And it's predicted that all kids that are born beyond 2000 are going to suffer diabetes sometime in their lives. And that's a huge, costly problem, not only economically, but also physically. So we're faced with all types of chronic obesity-related health issues. And we see that as children, if they're overweight, they're going to turn out to be overweight adults. And that's why the American population, 80% of all Americans are overweight. And about 44% nowadays, after the pandemic, COVID-19, about 44% of all Americans are obese. And this is scary. So you got obese kids growing up to be obese adults. This is a vicious cycle. So even in Europe, the WHO estimates that WHO estimates that in the European region, and Britain is like the 3rd most obese country in the world right now, 1 out of every 3 11-year-olds are overweight or obese. Okay, that's a major problem worldwide now. Why do we have such a problem? Because all these fast foods, junk food are populating all our cities, all our residential areas. So you see that McDonald's, for instance, their Happy Meal contains 8 teaspoons of sugar. And Kentucky Fried Chicken is not much better, 7.5 teaspoons per serving on their kids' meals. And you got Hungry Jack, kids' meals about 7.5. So McDonald's the worst. And you look at their meals comparing to the 1990s, right? The solar consumption is only 7.0 ounces. So it's about 85 calories. And comparing to today, right, we're looking at 8 ounces, 590 calories, a 500% increase in solar consumption. And then we look at French fries, it's getting bigger. The burger is a lot bigger, it's 457% more than in the 1960s. So no wonder we're getting bigger and bigger. And there's a great book by Michael Morse on salt, sugar, and fat. In that, he describes how big industries hire PhDs to figure out our bliss point, the maximum amount of sugar we can consume without testing us. And because it's such a high amount of sugar, we get an adrenaline rush. So our brain releases dopamine. It's just like cocaine. So we get addicted to sugary food. And this is not only sugar, it's the same thing with fat and salt as well. So if you look at a Happy Meal, what does it contain? Lots of sugar, lots of salt, and lots of fat. That's why we're getting triple whammy on the addictions. And you look at the Coke sizes, right? For instance, probably in the late 1900s, we're consuming like a can of Coke. Now we're consuming these big bottles. And look at these sugar ratios. It's a lot more sugar nowadays. Look at McDonald's. We're supersizing me all the time. And if you go to 7-Eleven, you could bring in a swimming pool and they will fill it for you. So this is a big contribution to our overweight problem. Now, how about sports drinks? Are they any better? A friend of mine just asked me that tonight. He was saying that his friend drinks a lot of sports drinks. Sports drinks is even worse. They contain 15 teaspoons of sugar. How about fruit juices? Orange juice is about 12%. Even fresh squeezed, it contains a lot of sugar. It's better to get rid of the juice and actually eat the fruit. It's much better for you. Drink water. Water should be your preferred liquid because it contains zero sugar. So how about if we go to Starbucks and order one of those fancy coffees? It contains enormous amount of sugar, up to like 30 teaspoons of sugar. Bubble tea. Look at bubble tea. Bubble tea contains about somewhere around 20.5 teaspoons of sugar. That's a lot of sugar you're consuming. So soda. What about soda and calories? So the average teenager drinks about 1.5 cans of soda per day. Remember the AHA, the American Heart Association, only recommends 3 teaspoons of sugar for kids' daily consumption. However, look at teenagers. They're drinking 1.5 cans of soda. Each can contains about 12 teaspoons of sugar, and that's like 18 teaspoons. That's 6 times exceeding their daily allowance. So if you consume that, the average, that's 9 cues of sugar in a can of Coke, 9 to 12. And then you look at, how about in a week? They're consuming about 900 calories. In a month, that's a pound of calories they're consuming. And a year, that's 13 extra pounds of calorie they're storing in their bodies. So that's a lot of calories. So soda has become the preferred drink for kids these days because they think it's cool to drink soda. And soda nowadays contains a lot of high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is made out of 55% fructose and 45% glucose. The glucose in an average adequate amount is actually okay for you because your body actually uses it up for energy. But fructose is stored as fat in your liver, so it's really bad for you. So fructose is a lot sweeter than glucose. That's why the industries prefer to add fructose to your processed food. So if you look at teenagers today, they're consuming about 12 to 25% of their calories from fructose. That's a lot of calories from fructose alone. So we need to educate our kids to help them reduce the sugar amount. Once they reduce the sugar amount, that's going to help their weight management a lot better, a lot better. So there's a study that was conducted at the University of Zurich, and they found that the participants who drink beverages sweetened with fructose have fat production twice as high as those who drink beverages sweetened with glucose, and those who abstain from sugar sweetened drinks, period. So that's a lot, twice as much, right? So they contain a lot more fat production. And if you look at the body mass index, what is the average body weight? The normal body weight should be somewhere between 18.5 BMI to 24.9, and that would be normal. Now you can go into Google and find the BMI calculator, put in your height, put in your weight, and it will calculate it for you. Now for Asians particularly, you need to reduce that even more. So from 18.5 to about 23 would be okay for Asians. Now overweight is anywhere from 25 to 29.9, and if you're obese, you're going above 30, right? And if you're super obese, you're going above 35. And there's 44% of the population right now is somewhere above 30 BMI, and that's very scary. So the other measurement is to take a look at where does those fat lies, right? Then that makes a huge difference. If the fat is around your waist area, and so you take a ruler and measure your waist somewhere around half your height in inches, then you're probably okay. But if you go above that, that's considered overweight, right? Now, because the fat stores around your waist is internal fat, that's what makes it very dangerous. It's called visceral fats. Now, that's when you have all types of chronic issues. The other fat may not look good. You may not look good in the swimming suits around your hips and your thighs. You might have fat thighs, but it's pear-shaped. Now, those are generally okay. Now, unless you're severely overweight, right? But generally, if you're overweight a little bit and your fat is in your hips and your thighs, you probably are okay metabolically. Now, there is a syndrome called TOFI, not tofu. TOFI stands for thin on the outside, but fat on the inside. Now, these people may look okay, but their fat is around the liver. Now, it doesn't take much. It only takes about 6 ounces of extra fat in your liver to have chronic issues. So there is a disease called non-alcoholic fatty livers, and that's when you consume a lot of fructose, a lot of glucose, for instance, too. So it digests, it goes into your liver, and it's metabolized only by your liver. Fructose is only metabolized in your liver, and your liver tends to store some of it as lipids, as fats in your liver. However, if you keep flooding it, it keeps storing a small percentage of it. Before you know it, you're going to have fatty liver. And fatty liver is a major problem these days because it also leads to diabetes. Now, we could look at, non-Asian Americans versus Americans, non-Asian Americans versus Caucasian or Black Americans. We found that Asian Americans has more fat to muscle ratio. So that's why we need a lower BMI for Asian Americans. Okay. So why is sugar so dangerous? Because sugar affects the brain. It stimulates the brain to produce a lot of dopamine. And when you produce a lot of dopamine, what happens is it's like morphine, right? It's like giving a patient, somebody morphine. It's very addictive. Actually, what they found was they put mice in a cage and they give them cocaine water or sugar water. Guess what? The mice actually prefer sugar water over cocaine, even for those mice who are already addicted to cocaine. That's how dangerous it is. And they even did a study where they put the mice in a treadmill and they the treadmill really fast when they start drinking the sugary water, and the skins is being rubbed off of the mice when they try to get to the sugar water. And guess what? Even though their skin's being rubbed off, they're really painful, they still fight for the sugary waters. That's how addictive it is. So your brain actually changes. It actually stimulates the same area as cocaine. You can see from this picture where the stimulation happens when you consume sugar and cocaine. It's at the same place, exact same place. Now, however, if you consume fructose versus glucose, your brain gets stimulated in different areas. So fructose is a lot more of a stimulant than glucose. Look at this picture, the normal brain versus the cocaine and obese brain. You can see that obese and cocaine brain is very similar, whereas the normal brain has a lot more red area and it's bigger, right? So it's very different from these other two. So it actually, when you consume a lot of fructose, it actually stimulates the hippocampus. That's where you form memories and consciousness. So it affects those areas, and you're gonna not be able to remember things as easily. So this is very dangerous for kids, and they're gonna learn slower. And also, you see that if you give a lot of sugar to adolescent wax, they become unsociable. They don't want to socialize. They become isolated. Okay, so there's a lot of problems with sugar that affects the body. It affects your sleep. It affects your body weight. It harms the heart. It also gives you a high risk of cancer, and it causes all types of chronic inflammation. So again, we also mentioned the liver issue and diabetes. So these are all problems that you're going to experience if you consume a lot of sugar. So remember, the American Heart Association recommends only 9 teaspoons of sugar per day for men, 6 for women, and 3 for kids. Okay, so kids are worse. One of the big issues with kids that are consuming a lot of sugar is ADHD, and that's hypertension. They're hyperactive. They can't stop themselves. They're running around all the time because they have so much energy, right? So this is not good for their studies, and they're not behaving in schools. So you can see how the fatty liver is formed when you consume a lot of sugar. So healthy sugar versus a fatty sugar, a huge difference in their liver. So that's why you have liver diseases. Now, there are different stages of liver disease. Most of it is reversible and reverse pretty quickly. Within about 6 weeks, it started reversing. However, if you have cirrhosis, that's tear in your liver, then that's not reversible. That's irreversible. So depends on how much damage you have done to the liver already. Maybe it won't be reversed to a healthy level. So start cutting down on the sugar is key. So where can we start cutting down on sugar? And the white sugars that we use, all honey, all types of sugar, maple syrup, okay, all types of sugar. And if we look at cereal, processed food, they all contain huge amount of sugar. How about fruits? Are we okay with fruits? Yes, you are. Now, you can look at foods that protects your liver. Fruits, broccoli, avocado, soya, nuts, especially walnuts. Some type of fish is good. Even coffee, surprisingly, right? Green tea, brown rice, those are all protective of liver. So things to avoid are fried foods, meat, alcohol, refined grains, fatty foods, starchy foods, all types of sugary foods, right? Now, diabetes is a big problem. So big problem today. It's estimated that by the year 2030, 50, half of Americans will have diabetes. And when you have diabetes, it's not a funny issue, because what causes diabetes, right? The reason why diabetes is formed is because when we consume a lot of sugar in our bloodstreams, okay, your brain tells your pancreas to stop producing insulin. So insulin is like the key to open up the cell, to let the sugar into the cells to burn it off as energy. However, if you're eating meat and fats get stored in the cells. It's like insulin is the key, but fat is like, it's like the bubble gum that blocks the keyholes, right? So now you put the keys in, you can't open up the door. So now the glucose can't get in to your body to get burned off, and it remains in the bloodstream. That's when you have high blood sugar. Okay, high blood sugar, right? High blood sugar. So you got to check out your A1C level to make sure you are below 5.6. If you go above 5.6, that's pre-diabetics. Okay, if you go above 6.5, that's diabetes. You're registered as diabetes. And when you have diabetes, you got to face a lot of issues, a lot of problems. So one of the big problems with diabetes is that you might have amputation of your limbs. You might have blindness from your eyes. You might have dementia if it goes up to your brain, right? So you have brain damages. And this happens even more prevalent for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Indian Americans particularly. So the CDC estimates that there are more prevalence and rise of prevalence among kids these days from 10 to 19-year-olds. They're getting diabetes, type 2 diabetes, a lot more than in the previous generation. So we gotta be careful. You can see the eye problem, the limb problem. You know, you can see your arm getting chewed away, right? That's very, very scary stuff. Your feet get amputated, and we don't want any of that to happen to us. So cut down your sugar, cut down your processed food. Eat the fruits. The reason why fruit is safe is because of all the fiber we mentioned last time. Your body actually doesn't absorb all the fructose from your fruits. Okay, maybe about 40%, not even that, because of the insoluble and soluble fibers wrapping around all that fructose, and it just get rid of it. And when it goes down to your intestines, and that's food for your microbiomes, okay, and some of it goes out the other end. So you don't actually absorb all of that. Whereas if you squeeze it in juice form, you absorb the 100% because you don't have any fiber in there. Okay, it doesn't go down to the intestine level. So it's very dangerous. So we got to look at how sugar is promoting obesity, right? Obesity is also linked to cancer as well. It's just all types of problems happening when you consume that much sugar. Get rid of the sugar, get rid of the animal products, get rid of the processed food, and you'll find health back to your normal selves again. Okay, I just want to conclude here that you got to maintain and manage your health, okay, regardless of your age. Now, the older you are, of course, you gotta be even more conscious of it. But today, young kids even are subject to all these old people chronic issues, right? So like diabetes, high blood pressure, these used to be old people problems. Now they're among teenagers as well, and especially heart issues too. So because of our overweight issue. So really look at how you can manage your weight. Look at how you can change your diet so you can live a happy and healthy life. Thank you.